Length of materials for B.Tech students. And in the question asked you to draw the SFD and BMD. SFD na shear force diagram and BMD means bending moment diagram. So looking onto this diagram, is this type of beam is called overhanging beam. So the support is at point A and another support is at point B. So beyond the supports, some length of the beam is extended. B in length extend left, that is right hand side of the beam. Left hand side extend length, having no supports in this part AC. Support is available only at point A and B. So this beam carries UDL load, uniformly distributed load. This is simple. It's called uniformly distributed load, shortly called as UDL, of value 2 kN per meter. And the left hand side, over 1.5 kN per meter UDL value is there. UDL load, uniformly distributed load is available. In addition, 6 kN is a point load acting at point called D. And then the distance is 2 meter, 3 meter, 1 meter, 2 meter respectively. The overall length of the beam is 2 plus 3, 5, 5 plus 1, 6, 8 meter. 8 meter is the overall length of the beam. It's called overhanging beam. So now in the question, simply supported beam or overhanging beam, we're going to take moments. So taking moments about point A. A is the first support. So if this is a point called A. The opposite support is at point B. Understand? So therefore RB RB into up to A, what is the length? 3 plus 1, 4 meter. So RB into 4. This is anti-clockwise moment. So RB is upward force called support. If A forms left turn. Left hand point anti-clockwise moment. Okay. So again I'll repeat. So taking moments about point A. So A point moment opposite support is at point B. So RB is upward force. It's called support. So A it forms left turn. So left turn it forms anti-clockwise moment. So that's in the side anti-clockwise moment RB into 4. Okay. Next is equal to sum of clockwise moments. Clockwise moment is the load. This type of load is called UDL, uniformly distributed load, acting between the point B and E of value 2 kN per meter. So this has UDL load acting downward between BE. If we turn out because we go to taking moments about point A. If the left side turn it forms clockwise moment. Understand? So clockwise moment of this UDL. Okay, the formula for UDL is UDL, that is moment for UDL load. WL square by 2 or W into UDL length multiplied with the UDL length by 2. The meaning for WL square by 2 is WL into L by 2. Okay, in the formula I use for UDL value, that is WL square by 2. This is the effect called direct effect of UDL, this 2 kN per meter. Plus indirect effect of this UDL, 2 kN per meter formula is plus WL into remaining length. Remaining length. Understand? So UDL value is given as 2 kN per meter. So that is equal to 2 into UDL length into UDL length L square. So I will expand and write like this. 2 into 2 into 2 by 2 plus indirect effect of UDL we are going to consider for this 2 kN per meter. So UDL value is 2, UDL length is 2, up to point A what is the length? Remaining length is 3 plus 1, 4 meter. So 2 into 2 into 4. This is UDL that is moment for this 2 kN per meter. So next load 2 6 kN is acting at point D. Okay. So 6 into in the moment this load is acting downward. It forms clockwise moment. A வரைக்கும் பார்ப்போம், it forms a turn like this. The point turn ஆயிட்டு it forms clockwise moment. So அதால clockwise moment side இது எழுதுறோம். That is 6 point load is value is 6 into A வரைக்கும் உள்ள distance is 3 meter. 6 into 3. சரி, இது பார்த்தாச்சு, இதுவும் பார்த்தாச்சு. Next load is 1.5 kN. எல்லா லோடுமே பார்க்கணும் for taking moments about point A. See, இது என்ன momentum பார்க்கணும், classify பண்றது. That is clockwise momentum, anti-clockwise momentum பார்த்துட்டு அந்த சைடு எழுதணும். இந்த சைடு anti-clockwise, அந்த சைடு clockwise momentலாம். பாருங்க 1.5 kN per meter is UDL value. It's acting downward. Up to A வரைக்கும் பார்க்கறப்ப இப்படி turn ஆகுது. So turn ஆகிட்டு it forms anti-clockwise moment. Okay, this load is acting downward. Up to A வரைக்கும் இப்படி turn ஆகுது. Forms anti-clockwise moment. So anti-clockwise momentனா இந்த சைடு தான் எழுதணும். Plus, so as I told earlier, WL square by 2 is the formula. That formula use பண்ணோம் for UDL load. So UDL value is 1.5 into UDL length is 2 meter. L square. So that is 2 into 2 by 2. Next on simplification, using calculator you can calculate this. So 2 into 2 into 2 will by 2 will be 4 plus 16 plus 18. That is equal to that. In the term வந்து right side ல போச்சு. That is 1.5 into 2 into 2. Right side போனா minus ஆயிடும். So therefore it minus, that is 38 minus 1.5 into 2 into 2 by 2. This is value for RB into 4. Okay, so therefore we are going to find RB value. RB is equal to, this on simplification we get it 35. 35 all divided by 4. So RB is equal to 8.75. So RB contribution of value is 8.75. 8.75 kilonewton. So you have to put the load, that is unit properly. Its value is kilonewton. So இங்க என்ன load கொடுத்திருக்காங்க பாருங்க, அதோட யூனிட் தான், load unit தான், reaction உடைய யூனிட்டும் அமையும். Okay, so next we are going to find RA value. So RA value கண்டுபிடினா we are going to take, that is sum of upward forces is equal to sum of downward forces. So let me erase this part. So listen to this. Next I am going to write a sum of upward forces. Is equal to sum of downward forces so sum of upward force என்ன இருக்கு பாருங்க, இதுல RA தான் upward force at point A and RB. So RA plus RB. So right side ல sum of downward forces. இதுல வந்து force ஆ கால்குலேட் பண்ணணும், not moment. So force ன்றது unit for force is kilonewton. So பாருங்க downward force என்ன இருக்கு பாருங்க, 2 kilonewton, this UDL. So for force வந்து UDL value is multiplied with UDL length. UDL value unit is kilonewton per meter. So kilonewton per meter is multiplied with UDL length. UDL length is meter தான். So meter cancel, leaving kilonewton. இல்ல force தான் consider பண்றோம், அதனால we put kilonewton. Okay, so that you have to remember. So UDL value is 2 into 2 meter. 2 into 2 plus next load என்ன பாருங்க, 6 kilonewton is acting downward. So downward force na 6, that is right side la எழுதுறோம், sum of downward forces are load. Next இந்த லோடும் பார்க்கணும், இதுவும் downward தான் ஆக்ட் ஆகுது, 1.5 kilonewton. So 1.5 into UDL length is 2 meter plus 1.5 into 2. So this will be 4 plus 6, 4 plus 6 plus 3. that is 13. So already we found RB value is 8.75 kilonewton. So therefore RA equal to 13 minus 8.75. So therefore RA is equal to 4.25 kilonewton. Put a unit properly. So unit is must. So unit carries marks. So now, so far we found RA and RB. Next we are going to put calculation for shear force value and bending moment value. That is shear force calculation and bending moment calculation. So let me erase this part. I'm going to work out a shear force calculation for drawing a shear force diagram. So shear force we start from point called E. So shear force at point E is equal to, here load illa, point E la load illa. So we put 0 for this. Next shear force at B. So B intra point la paranga, B ki minadi and up to point D, what is the load that acts? So shear force at point B, pagrapo idhukku minadi enna load irukku? UDL value is 2 kilonewton. Okay. So shear force the unit of force or the load is kilonewton. So the formula the UDL value is multiplied with UDL length for UDL load. Okay, shear force at point B paranga. So minus. So before that we are going to work out a sign convention for this. Your answer sheet. Sign convention. So downward force. Downward force or load. Load now minus sign. This is a downward arrow mark now minus sign. So negative consider control. That means what? Upward force or the reaction. Upward force now we going to consider as positive. So upward force. Upward force or load. That is a reaction. Reaction. This is only positive. Positive. Okay. So downward force we consider as negative. Upward force we consider as positive. Suppose in case some students may ask. So opposite consider panna, downward force positive, upward force negative consider panna. Appdi calculate panni diagram varja, that will be ulta. That is also right. So let me consider it like this. In this solving this problem, let me now consider panna. Downward force is negative and upward force is positive. Okay. So margin consider panna, but the sequence of steps will remain the same. Okay. So shear force at point B paranga. B varaikum B ki minadi varaikum load aayatadu parano. This UDL value is there. So minus downward force na downward load. The UDL is acting downward. So other we put minus sign. So downward force or the load we consider as negative. So minus 4, that is UDL value is 2 into UDL length. So 2 into 2. That is equal to minus 4 kilonewton. This one in the value minus 4 kilonewton without considering the support reaction at point B. That you have to understand. So this one without support reaction. Support reaction, that is RB. Next shear force. Shear force at B with the support reaction. The RB consider next step. That is the shear force at point B with the support reaction. With the support reaction, that is RB. So previous value and now there is minus 4. So it's a cumulative sum of forces. So minus 4 minus 4. RB value is 8.75. It's the upward force. Upward force we consider as positive based on this sign convention. So plus 8.75. Okay, so that is equal to 4.75 kilonewton. So every time you put the unit, understand. Next is a shear force at SF, shear force at point D. So SF at D is equal to previous value என்ன வந்திருக்கு பாருங்க 4.75, that you write down 4.75 எழுதிட்டு at point D தான். D ல என்ன load ஆயிட்டாது 6 kilonewton is a load acting downward na negative, so minus 6 is equal to 1.25, that is minus 1.25 kilonewton. Understand? So next point என்ன இருக்கு பாருங்க A point. So shear force at A, the previous value is minus 1.25. So A point la enna load ஆயிட்டாது, இது only support reaction தான் இருக்கு RA. So plus, so upward force RA is acting upward at the A. Shear force at A என்றது previous value எழுதிட்டு plus RA is a force acting upward. RA we already found as 4.25. So upward force is positive based on the sign convention. So then a plus 4.25. So on calculation we get its value will be 3 kilonewton. Next is point C. Shear force at C is equal to previous value என்ன இருக்கு பாருங்க 3 kilonewton. So 3. So C A க்கும் C க்கு நடுவுல UDL value இருக்கு. UDL load is there. So 1.5 into 2. Understand? எப்படி இது போட்டோம் அதே போல தான். Okay, so load na கீழ தான் ஆயிட்டாது. This is a downward force na we follow negative, so minus 1.5 into UDL length is 2 meter. So that is equal to 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. Understand? So now I am going to draw shear force calculation. Based on the shear force calculation which is shear force diagram வரைய போறோம். So ஒரு horizontal line draw பண்ணிட்டு I am not in the lines vertical lines draw பண்ணுங்க using that is a projection lines வரைஞ்ச lighter lines shown blue in color, lighter line. இந்த லைன்ஸ்லாம் வரைஞ்ச பிறகு இங்க ஒரு horizontal line draw பண்ணுங்க. This corresponds to x axis. X axis we are going to consider length consider பண்ண போறோம். Y axis we are going to mark the shear force values. It's a graphical representation தான் இது. So பாருங்க next first point E ல வந்து என்ன இருக்கு, this called E அப்படி ட்ரேஸ் பண்ணினா value is 0. Okay, so next point is point B. Point B ல -4 இருக்கு. மைனஸ்னா இந்த லைனுக்கு கீழ வந்தா நெகட்டிவ், மேல போனா பாசிட்டிவ். That is the shear force value தான். So அப்ப இந்த point will be 0,0 called the origin. 0,0 இது கீழ வந்தா நெகட்டிவ், மேல போனா பாசிட்டிவ் shear force value எல்லாம் plot பண்ண போறோம். So shear force at point B என்ன வேல்யூ இருக்கு, -4. இந்த B அப்படியே பாயிண்ட் ட்ரேஸ் பண்ணா -4 we will mark like this. So -4. Understand? Next point B ல வந்து next point is with support reaction. பாருங்க 4.75 kilonewton. So இதே point B ல is positive. So அதனால மேல மார்க் பண்ணுங்க 4.75. Understand? Next at point D. D ல பாருங்க -1.25. மைனஸ்ன்றது கீழ தான் இங்க இருக்கும். 4 ஓட கம்மி தான், that is 1.25 ன்றது. So இப்போ mark this is -1.25. Understand? Next at the point A ன்றதுல 3 kilonewton is a positive sign. So 3 kilonewton. 3. Next at point C value is 0. Okay, so now using your freehand scale, so 0 வந்திருக்கு, இங்க 0. எங்கெல்லாம் inclined shear diagram, in this diagram ல பார்க்கறப்ப UDL எங்கெல்லாம் இருக்கும் அங்கெல்லாம் inclined line வரும் shear force diagram. அதனால 0 இது. Next point B ல வந்து -4, next 4.75, அப்புறம் point D ல -1.25 வந்திருக்கு. Okay, so we joined all those points. So shear force diagram la load uniformly distributed load இருந்தா shear force diagram la will be inclined line, that you have to remember. Next, இங்க வந்து vertical line draw பண்ணோம். Connecting -4 and 4.75. புரியுதுங்களா? So இந்த difference இது ஒரு 4 இங்க ஒரு 4.75. ரெண்டு ஆட் பண்ணா 8.75 வரும். That is the reaction at point B. That you can understand based on this diagram. So next இங்க between DB க்கு நல்ல load இல்ல. So that we can draw one horizontal line like this. Next இங்க ஒரு vertical line draw பண்ணுங்க. Next between A க்கு D க்கு நல்ல load இல்ல. So that we can draw horizontal line like this. Next A point ல load என்ன இருக்கு 3 kN. இது அப்படியே ஒரு vertical line draw பண்ணுங்க. Next UDL இருக்கு இந்த இடத்துல UDL இருக்கு. UDL இருந்தா inclined line வரும் shear force diagramல. Connecting 0 and 3. Understand? Is அப்படியே ஷேட் பண்ணீங்க லைட்டா by using section lines like this to indicate the area of a shear force diagram SFD. So இந்த horizontal line க்கு மேல வந்தா we put positive, கீழ வந்தா is negative. இதெல்லாம் negative தான். This is positive. So this type of diagram is called shear force diagram, shortly written as SFD. The unit followed is kilonewton. Understand? So next we are going to work out a bending moment calculation for this given question, so that we can construct bending moment diagram also. So before that, let me erase this part. So next bending moment calculation work out பண்ண போறோம். So first point we consider as point E. So bending moment, that is BM, shortly written as bending moment BM. Bending moment at E is equal to இங்க வந்து load இல்ல. That is end of UDL தான், but distance இல்ல. So then we put E. Okay. So bending moment at E is equal to 0. That is 0. Next bending moment at a point called, next point is at a point called B. Okay. So bending moment at point B. Bending moment at B. So B க்கு முன்னாடி என்ன load இருக்கு பாருங்க. That is UDL load. That is 2 kN per meter. Okay. So இது வந்து bending moment தான். Momentனா WL square by 2, not like a shear force. அதனால bending momentனா, moment means force into perpendicular distance, kilonewton per meter. Kilonewton meter வரணும் unit. So value for a bending moment at point B is WL square by 2. So இது வந்து sign convention work out பண்ண போறோம். That is clockwise moment. Okay. The clockwise moment எல்லாம் we can consider as negative. So I write a sign convention. Sign convention. So clockwise moment. So clockwise moment as, that is, this is the direction of clockwise. Understand? So clockwise moment is considered as negative. That means anti-clockwise moment is considered as positive. Positive. Okay. So in the load UDL value of 2 kN per meter is the clockwise moment தான். எப்படின்றது? So bending moment at point B power, this load is acting downward. So up to B வரைக்கும் இப்படி turn ஆகுது. It forms clockwise moment. Acting downward, B வரைக்கும் இப்படி turn ஆகுது. So it forms clockwise moment. Okay. So அதனால we follow minus sign for this. So minus WL square by 2 is the formula for moment for UDL load. Okay. So 2 into UDL value into UDL length into length by 2. Okay. So we get minus 4. Minus 4 kilonewton meter. So you can check the unit also. So 2 is the UDL value. UDL value unit 2 kilonewton per meter. Okay, kilonewton per meter is multiplied with UDL length. That is L square. So meter into meter. So in the meter cancel out, leaving kilonewton meter. That I put it here. Okay, we check here. So minus 4 kilonewton meter is a bending moment value at point B. Next point is at point D. So bending moment at D. D is equal to, so it's an algebraic sum of moments. The moments. That's over time you first consider பண்ணனும். Okay. So bending moment at point D பார்க்கறப்போ previous loadல என்ன இருக்கு பாருங்க. இப்போ distance மாறிடுது. இந்த -4 பிளஸ்லாம் அப்படி போடக்கூடாது, not like shear force calculation. அது மாதிரி பண்ணாம, so next distance மாறினால every time you have to take fresh calculation for this. So bending moment at point D, previous load என்ன இருக்கு, இந்த UDL இருக்கா, இது கன்சிடர் பண்ணோம். This RB also we have to consider. So next first, so shear force at point D பார்க்கறப்போ UDL value இங்க இருக்கு between point B and E. Okay, so WL square by 2 plus WL into remaining length பார்க்கணும். Direct effect of UDL or indirect effect of UDL consider பண்ண வேண்டியது இருக்கு. So அதல்ல, so it's a load acting downward. We act at it, we turn out it forms a clockwise movement. So clockwise now we put a negative for this. Understand? So அதல்ல minus WL square by 2 again minus W into UDL length into remaining length. That is for this UDL. Okay, so W UDL value is 2 kilonewton into L square UDL length. So minus 2 into 2 into 2 by 2 minus, இதெல்லாமே clockwise movement தான். இப்படி ஃபார்ம் இப்படி டர்ன் ஆகுது. இந்த லோடு இன்டு பர்பெண்டிகுலர் டிஸ்டன்ஸ் இந்த பார்ப்ப D என்ற பாயிண்டா கன்சிடர் பண்றோம். It turns like this and forms clockwise movement. Okay, so minus 2 into up to D வரைக்கும் what is the length, remaining length பாருங்க. UDL value, UDL length into remaining length is 1 meter into 1. So that is equal to upward. So upward and forms D வரைக்கும் எப்படி turn ஆகுது பாருங்க. It forms in this direction and forms anti-clockwise. Okay, so anti-clockwise is positive. So plus, that is RB 8.75 into 1. Okay, so minus 4 plus 8.75 is equal to 0.75 kilonewton meter. 0.75 inga minus 4 inga 0. Okay, so next point is A point. So bending moment at A. So bending moment at A pagarappo first we again starting from first. So 2 into WL square by 2. Next plus indirect effect of UDL. WL into remaining length பார்க்கணும். Next RB value பார்க்கணும். Next 6 kN is a downward force. இதையும் கன்சிடர் பண்ணணும். Okay, so எல்லாம் பார்க்கறப்போ first we consider this UDL load. இதை பார்க்கறப்போ நான் 2 into, so minus is a clockwise movement, minus 2 into 2 by 2. That is the direct effect of UDL. Next indirect effect of UDL இருக்குது, இந்த ஃபார்முலா யூஸ் பண்ணணும். So minus UDL value is 2 into UDL length is 2 meter into remaining length என்ன இருக்கு பாருங்க, up to point A. Okay, remaining length is 3 plus 1, 4 meter. Understand? So 4. So next is the upward force, reaction at point B, RB. RB is upward force. A வரைக்கும் it forms இப்படி turn ஆகுது. If turn over, it forms anti-clockwise movement. Okay, so RB value is 8.75 into A வரைக்கும் what is the length பாருங்க, 3 plus 1, 4 meter. Understand? So plus 8.75 into 4. Understand? So next load is 6 kilonewton. 6 இப்படி act downward. Act at A வரைக்கும் போறப்போ it does clockwise movement. இப்படி turn ஆகுது clockwise. So plus, sorry, what is called clockwise movement na negative. So minus 6 into 3. Minus 6 into 3. அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பாருங்க, இது எல்லா லோடும் கன்சிடர் பண்ணுமா, அப் டு பாயிண்ட் ஏ வரைக்கும் ப்ரீவியஸ் லோடு எல்லாம் கன்சிடர் பண்ணியாச்சு. ஸோ this on calculation. So 2 into 2 into 2 by 2 minus 4 minus 16 minus 35 minus 18. Understand? So that is equal to minus 3. Kilonewton meter. Next, at the point is C. Next point is C point. So bending moment at C is equal to previous load before point C. என்ன load எல்லாம் பாருங்க, எல்லாமே கன்சிடர் பண்ண வேண்டியது இருக்கு. So 2 into first we consider this. இது வந்து இப்படி கீழே ஆக்ட் ஆகுது, downward force, that is UDL load. இப்படி வந்து ஆக்ட் ஆகுது, இப்படி டர்ன் ஆகுது, it forms clockwise movement up to point C வரைக்கும் டர்ன் ஆகுது இப்படி. So forms clockwise movement. Clockwise momentum we consider negative. So minus 2 into W, that is L square, W L square by 2. Again minus indirect effect of UDL பார்க்க போறோம். 2 into remaining length. Remaining length என்றது 1 plus 3 plus 2. That is 6. C வரைக்கும் ஒரு distance பார்க்கிறோம். Remaining length, that is 6 meter. Again, so next is the RB. RB is upward force. Upward force, it forms anti-clockwise movement. If the actually C or if turn out, it forms anti-clockwise movement. So RB value is 8.75 into C வரைக்கும் ஒரு distance பாருங்க 6 meter. So plus 8.75 into 6. Understand? So next load is 6 kN acting downward. If the activity, it forms clockwise movement. C வரைக்கும் turn ஆகுது, இப்படி activity இப்படி turn ஆகுது up to C. So it forms clockwise movement. Clockwise movement negative. So 6 into, so minus 6 into length பாருங்க, perpendicular length எவ்வளவு இருக்கு, 3 plus 2 5 meter. Understand? So next load என்ன இருக்கு பாருங்க. Next is the support reaction at point A. So if the activity C வரைக்கும் power இப்படி turn ஆகுது, it forms anti-clockwise movement. So RA is 4.25 into 2 meter. 4.25, so plus anti-clockwise movement positive, plus 4.25 into 2. Understand? So next load is UDL load. இது எப்படி ஆக்ட் ஆகுது, கீழே ஆக்ட் ஆகுது, கீழே ஆக்ட் ஆகிட்டு இப்படி ஃபார்ம்ஸ், இட் டர்ன்ஸ் லைக் திஸ். C வரைக்கும் பரவாயில்ல, it turn out it forms clockwise movement. So clockwise we put negative. So 1.5 W L square by 2 தான். 1.5 into 2 into 2 by 2. So minus 1.5 into 2 into 2 by 2. So understand? So that is equal to, இது minus 4. 2 into 2 by 2 is minus 4. So minus 24. Next 8.75 into 6 plus 52.5. Next minus 6 into 5 minus 30 plus 4.25 into 2, value is 8.5. 8.5. 1.5 into 2 into 2 by 2 is minus 3. So it is on calculation gives 0. Understand? So this is a way to calculate. If you calculate for bending, that is bending moment calculation. So next we are going to draw a bending moment diagram also. That is a BMD. So first ஒரு horizontal line draw பண்ணீங்க. So this horizontal line represents x-axis, that is the length of the beam. The y-axis we are going to plot the bending moment values. It's a graphical representation than the diagram. So y-axis that represents bending moment value, BM. Okay, so now for plotting at point E பார்க்கப்போ 0. So E ல வந்து value is 0. Okay, next point P ல என்ன value இருக்கு பாருங்க -4. -4 னா இந்த லைன் horizontal line கீழ வந்தா we put in negative, that is negative value of bending moment. லைன் க்கு மேல வந்தா positive value. So B ல point வந்து that is value is -4. So B ன்ற okay, next point is D point. D ல என்ன value வந்திருக்கு 0.75. 0.75 is positive. So line க்கு மேல வந்தா positive, we put it 0.5, 0.75. இந்த D point நேரா ட்ரேஸ் பண்ணலாம். 0.75 ன்றது பாசிட்டிவ் தான். So line க்கு மேல வந்தா பாசிட்டிவ் bending moment value. Next point at A is -3. So -3 is located like this, -3. Next point at C is 0. So 0. Okay. So இதெல்லாம் join பண்ணனும் so that we get a diagram called bending moment diagram, BMD. இப்போ 0 -4. So எங்கெல்லாம் shear force diagramல inclined line வருதோ அங்க வந்து cubic curve or parabolic curve வரும். இங்க வந்து cubic curve தான் வரும். So 0 -4. This is a cubic curve. Okay. So next point at D வந்து 0.75. So bending shear force diagramல எங்கெல்லாம் horizontal line வருதோ அங்க bending moment diagram will be inclined line. So அதனால இங்க ஒரு inclined line draw பண்ணுங்க. Okay. So next value at point A is -3. இங்க வந்து horizontal line தான் இருக்கு. Shear force diagramல எங்க horizontal line இருக்கோ bending moment diagramல will be inclined line. So join like this. Okay. So next value is C ல வந்து 0. Understand? So we shade this diagram called bending moment diagram. So line கீழ வந்தாலும் we put a negative, இது positive, இதுவும் negative தான். This is area of diagram called bending moment diagram area. BMD, unit followed is kilonewton meter. So this completes the shear force diagram and bending moment diagram for the given question called overhanging beam. நன்றி, வாழ்த்துக்கள்.